We have massive breaking news that occurred overnight while America was asleep. Operation Epic Fury. The United States has conducted a series of military strikes against Iran. So much has happened since the initial strikes. Of course, Israel is involved. The UK announced they are supporting the US and Israel from the air. Iran has already retaliated, striking US assets in 8 different countries around the Middle East. Iran has sworn revenge. There's reports that the Iranian supreme leader is dead after his palace was completely obliterated by U.S. and Israeli forces. We have lots of videos coming out from both sides of the conflict, as well as the news coverage, the warnings from the Trump administration, announcements by other politicians, and lots more. So we're going to get straight into it. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates on the federal machine, and every article, every page, every link I come across will be linked right down in the description. So we're going to start here with Donald J. Trump. This is on his official X account, over 106 million views. This was just posted 13 hours ago as of this recording at 2:44 in the morning. In the middle of the night, the darkest hours of the night, President Trump was given a speech to the American people. Wow. And already up to almost 1 million likes on the X platform. That is unprecedented, something that rarely happens. And we'll just dive straight into it. Let's see what he says.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel.
Okay, so clearly this is the big one. All bets are off. The Ayatollah will be overthrown at all costs. The gloves are off. No more Mr. Nice Westerners. This is the real deal. Playtime is over. That's what I'm getting out of this. So we are full steam ahead with regard to overthrowing the regime in Iran. And wow. Okay.
In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime
don't have Venezuela
has
to tap from anymore now, do they?
funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage.
They've been largely
brutal.
wiped out.
Something like the world has never seen before.
It also sounds like Cuba might be coming to the table, negotiating with the U.S.
And just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States.
He just glitched, right?
In particular,
hold on, let me just
thousands
take a look.
of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It is always
okay. Yeah, so this is clearly something that's been pre-recorded. This isn't done in one single take. This was a carefully crafted speech that he put together. Maybe he even put together the speech before even the strikes began, perhaps. I noticed that earlier, about a minute before, that his body just suddenly shifted, as in they did a second take, they did a third take. So a very carefully crafted video.
It's been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death.
Wow.
So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death.
Well, look, and I think he's being legit about that, because the United States, not that we really have a whole lot of entities to answer to, but of course there is the UN, there's NATO, there's the allied countries. So when the United States, the president of the United States says that if you lay down your arms and you surrender, you'll be given full immunity. We're not going to throw you into a POW camp. We're not going to throw you into internment camps. We'll put you through just a standard legislative process. We're going to stand by that because the entire world is watching. So,
to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered.
Oh, yeah, the people in Iran are pretty happy, man.
It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government.
Obviously not happy about the bombs dropping part.
To take. This will be
but they want this regime to be over.
Your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Rock and roll, man. So the invasion of Iran has officially begun. Of course, there's not boots on the ground, anything like that. We're just lobbing missiles into Iran, high-precision missiles, because that's what the United States military and, of course, the IDF, they have that as well. Very highly precise. So everyone is going to expect Iran to just retaliate with everything they have. From what I've read of all the missiles that they have launched so far at the 8 different countries, which is primarily U.S. assets that they've been launching missiles at, roughly 50% of them have either malfunctioned or failed to get off the ground. There has been an Iranian response to that, saying that we're starting this counterattack with old weapons and you haven't seen anything yet. We're going to start deploying our most advanced weaponry any minute now. Of course, they're going to say that. We're just going to have to wait and see if that becomes the issue. But if Iran develops a nuclear weapon, it would likely be something like 10 kilotons, give or take, which is, it's still nothing to scoff at, but it would still inflict massive damage. But in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't be a weapon that can obliterate an enormously major city. Probably something similar to the Fat Man and Little Boy atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan in 1945. But for example, Pakistan's largest nuclear weapon is about 15 kilotons, and India's largest nuclear weapon is about 100 kilotons, I think, compared to the United States having proven to detonate a 30,000 kiloton weapon, and Russia having proven that they have a 50,000 kiloton nuclear weapon, which of course we don't measure in thousands of kilotons, we measure in megatons at that point. So anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Department of War, Operation Epic Fury. Short, simple, to the point. 205,000 likes for that. 25,000 have commented with 26 million views so far, about 13 hours ago as of this recording, which of course was also early in the morning, 3:27 a.m. Eastern Time. And this is from U.S. Central Command. As the president stated, our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. The president ordered bold action. CENTCOM forces are delivering an overwhelming and unrelenting blow. And of course, CENTCOM is U.S. Central Command. If you wanted just a snapshot of their profile, the official account of U.S. Central Command, and at CENTCOM, of course, government profile, as the gray badge indicates. And they dropped this video. Now, was this footage from today? Not sure. Possibly. It looks like they're taking out some valuable targets, taking out drones, taking out trucks, taking out the radars. So this very well could be footage that may have happened overnight. Or it could very well just be stock footage from another conflict. Not 100% for sure. They didn't elaborate on that. From Optimized, the Israeli Defense Force has published another video showing an attack on an Iranian military emplacement during the joint U.S.-Israeli attack earlier this morning. Operation Epic Fury, Netanyahu, Middle East, Gulf Supreme Leader. Okay, so those are just hashtags and whatnot. So let's take a look at this quick one. Of course, there's no sound. A couple of individuals walking. So yeah, some military compound of some type. Everyone's running. Wow. Okay. Well, that was a hell of a splash. All right. That happened, and they also have this from Optimized 5 hours ago, Israel, and looks like just a still image of either an explosion. Looks like there's a motor from a vehicle that's just sitting there. Okay, Fox and Friends, breaking news. The U.S. and Israel are conducting joint strikes against Iranian military targets across the country in an operation named Operation Epic Fury.
There were just sirens sounding across central Israel, and those white streaks of smoke that you see on the screen right now, that is our camera live capturing Israel's missile defense systems, and you hear those explosions there. Right now, the fire's being intercepted overhead. The Iranians are responding in real time to these U.S.
and this
Israeli
happened in broad
strikes
daylight, by the way,
against their country.
The initial attack.
A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, and Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, were targeted. A battle damage assessment is ongoing at this hour to determine if those strikes were successful.
Yeah, see, and my thing is that we have CIA assets on the ground. We have tons of satellites up in space. We're constantly watching Iran, I'm sure in real time, day after day, minute by minute. So if the Iranian president or the supreme leader or whoever he or they are, wherever they are, I would assume that we would probably know where they were. If we really wanted to take them out, I think we'd have the capability of doing so. But it's still unconfirmed that I have read as of maybe about a half an hour ago. I haven't seen anything. There's a lot going around saying that the Supreme Leader was killed because his primary compound was completely obliterated, which I believe I do have a video clip of that as well.
It's not just Tel Aviv that is now taking incoming ballistic missile fire. It is Haifa in the northern part of Israel, Beersheba, and you hear those booms in the distance as this fire is still being intercepted. And another one there.
Yikes.
And yet another one. The
Wow.
fire is getting more intense.
The Iron Dome,
towards central
hard at work.
Israel. And millions of Israelis at this moment, guys, are in bomb shelters. They are following the instructions from Israel's Home Front Command. But you heard those remarks from President Trump. He says that this will be intense and ongoing.
Right,
He
man.
spoke directly about the regime and to the people of Iran, telling them that they have a historic opportunity. This was an operation that we saw coming, months and months of planning. The USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier off the coast of Israel just arrived yesterday in the Eastern Mediterranean. And this gave the Americans and the Israelis that final puzzle piece to move forward with this operation. And just as we speak here, I just want to show you on phones, you can see the amount of fire that Israel is taking right now. All of these lines are rocket and missile alerts that are going to the Israeli people across this country as they wait and shelter. The president was very clear in his language. A war has now erupted in the Middle East. The Iranians are not just targeting Israel, they are targeting U.S. forces in a variety of Gulf countries, including Bahrain, explosions reported in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE. And so now the region braces for what comes next. Israeli air defense systems remain on high alert. And there is a real understanding that this is not an operation that will last just for today or tomorrow. It will take days, but coordination is taking place at the highest level. One other interesting thing that we learned from a senior Israeli official is that among the target list of individuals were commanders responsible for the mass murder of civilians in Iran earlier this year.
Yeah,
President Trump was clear on Truth Social after the regime cracked down on those demonstrations that the Americans had the backs of the Iranian
high-ranking
people.
Iranian asshole.
And today we saw President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordering this operation against the Iranian regime, targeting the country's leadership, significant buildings, ballistic missile launching positions, and a variety of command and control centers inside of Iran. But again, the latest information here in Israel, the country remains under ballistic missile fire at this hour. As you saw, they're live on our cameras. And the country of Israel, like the United States, is bracing for days of war ahead. Guys?
Hey, Trey,
oh, man, that we are.
Do you have any sense of these are missiles or are they drones or are they both?
I guess it's good that our military was rebuilt back in 2017.
Updates on what you're being hit with?
These are ballistic missiles, and what's interesting is they're firing in much smaller volleys than we saw during the 12-day war. There were times in the past where Iran fired more than 100 missiles at a single time. They would fire dozens of them trying to overwhelm Israel's air defense systems. And they have a tiered defense system, the Iron Dome, then the David Sling,
like a scene
and
straight
then
out
the
of
Arrow
Star
2 and
Wars,
3
man.
system. They've also got Patriot and THAAD missile defense systems. The interceptors have been arriving here on C-17 planes, transported from the United States to ensure that Israel had the capability to shoot down this incoming fire. And it's clear that Iran is not able, at this point in the war, to overwhelm those air defense systems. There have been no reports of casualties in Israel.
You would
there
think
have
now
been
would be the time,
reports
Iran.
of impacts in rural areas, but no major
full of
damage
hot
to this
air,
country
or do they
so
really have
far,
something up
despite
their
the
sleeve?
incoming ballistic missile fire. Now, Israel is not just looking east. They're also looking north, and they're looking south. In the north, they're looking at the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, that according to intelligence officials I spoke with this week, still has thousands of rockets and missiles that they could fire against
sponsor
Israel.
of terrorism,
You also
Iran.
have the Houthis in Yemen, who have the ability to launch drones and missiles against this country. And so this is just beginning, and Israel has to look in all directions, including into Iraq and Syria, where Iran has Shia militias that have the capability to target population centers here. And so this is a regional war that is now developing. We understand that American and Israeli strikes will continue against the Iranian regime. Israeli officials being very clear, they are looking to decapitate the Iranian regime, take out the leadership, the Ayatollah, the president, and other senior
they want to give it back
military
to the people,
commanders
man.
that are capable of threatening U.S. forces in the region and creating this sense of instability across the Middle East that President Trump has been trying to avoid. The president gave the Iranians an olive branch.
Yeah,
he
he did
offered
several
negotiations.
times.
He offered
Over and over
diplomacy.
again.
And the Iranians
And they kept
chose
slapping it away.
to stay very hardline in their positions and not be flexible when it comes to their nuclear program, where, according to the president, they were trying to rebuild it after those different facilities were destroyed in Operation Midnight Hammer.
Well, of course
also,
they're trying
Iran's
to rebuild
expanding
it.
ballistic
Are you
missile
listening to
program, a
Timu
threat
Obama?
to the United States and Israel.
He doesn't believe that
and
anybody
the
can
support
rebuild
of
anything
regional
after something's
proxies.
destroyed,
It was the
'cause he's retarded.
protesters, though, at the beginning of this year internally in Iran that really flipped the switch in the region, that got these conversations started again, but also got that military buildup underway. The president had to wait until things were in place, and you saw that address earlier that we just aired. The president is very clear in his statement. This is a war, and it's a war aimed at destroying the threat of the Iranian regime that has spent the past 47 years trying to destabilize the Middle East.
This is the real deal,
and
man.
as the president started with the ceasefire inside Gaza and also trying to end wars around the world, he is looking to try to build something in the region that lasts. And it was the Iranian regime that was really standing in the way of that peace project that is centered around the Board of Peace. And so, again, to zoom out here, what we know right now, American and Israeli strikes against Iran are expected to continue in the days ahead. The Iranians are already responding, targeting U.S. forces in Gulf countries. They're also targeting Israel with ballistic missiles, and the region waits to see what comes next in the hours and days ahead.
Look, and to be honest with you, I've been worried about this conflict breaking out for many years, going back to the Iraq War, all the boots on the ground by the tens of thousands, and just imagining that Iran is going to be a whole different animal because they've got a much bigger population. It's like 90 million people that live in Iran. Plus, it's way more mountainous. It would be a logistical and military nightmare to have to physically invade that country. So I don't know if it's ever going to come to that. I don't know if we're going to get that much involved. But I'm honestly surprised that this happened under Trump and it didn't end up happening under like Biden or somebody else. I figured that Trump would have just kept taking the position of peace and just continued to just try to be diplomatic about it. But it looks like that time has come and passed, and it definitely seems like now would be the time because their economy has been collapsing. Inflation in Iran has gone up something like 150% over the last year. Of course, the massive protests had broken out around, late December throughout January. And so it's a clear indication that the people in Iran are ready for this. The Iranian regime, they don't have the oil reserves. They don't have the ability to tap into Venezuela anymore. The United States is even in talks with Cuba, trying to get Cuba to, play ball in some way or another. Maybe, hopefully, lifting the embargo might be on the horizon in the future. I mean, I wouldn't exactly hold my breath for that, but it kind of sounds like that things are set up now is maybe the best time that we've had over the last 50 years to conduct this level of a strike, or I don't know if we'd go as far as to call it an invasion against Iran, but it sounds like that now is the time. And of course, the Democrats, they're furious. Thomas Massie, Republican, Rand Paul, also furious about this. And I'm not going to get into the Democrat responses in this video because it's to be honest, it's a bunch of emotional rabble for the most part. At least that's the case right now. So I'll just mainly focus on the footage, the reports, the news segments, the Trump administration's response, and responses from the other world leaders. So I've got this from NDTV. The U.S. calls strikes on Iran Operation Epic Fury. What is the extent of U.S. mobilization in the region? Let's have a look at this.
I'll tell you exactly the kind of mobilization that U.S. has had in this region. Middle East is a place where U.S. does have very large presence. Whether you take the Fifth Fleet in
man, we're all over the
whether
place.
you take Qatar Air
Not
Base,
just out
it
at
has a
sea,
very
but
large presence.
on
In
land.
addition to that, Donald Trump has actually mobilized
we got bases
massive
like 11
amount
countries
of
there or
additional
something?
resources.
At least 8.
So if it were to look at cornering Iran, then there from the Mediterranean Sea, there is the Gerald Ford, that is the aircraft carrier that has been mobilized.
Okay, just real quick. This is the Strait of Hormuz up here where this ship is located. And of course, this is a major shipping channel. Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar. This is a very strategic, very important shipping channel. And Iran apparently has come out and said that the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. If any tankers, any shipping container ships, any kind of civilian ships of any kind try to pass through it, then they're gonna attack it. That statement had come out sometime in the last several hours.
In addition, there is the Roosevelt, and then there is Durbert Black as well coming in from the Red Sea. On the other end, from the Persian Gulf, there is USS McFall, and the other aircraft carrier, that's Abraham Lincoln, that is going to be all the way from Arabian Sea. So if you were to talk about the military might, the mobilization as far as America is concerned, they actually have Iran covered from several areas. Do not forget, you have Frank Peterson and Michael Murphy as well coming in from Arabian Sea. So Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf, Mediterranean Sea, all the way till Red Sea. So if US were to look at complete mobilization, I think this is the picture that it emerges.
Well, yeah, and not to mention each one of our aircraft carriers, how many fighter jets do they carry? Something like 100 or 120 fighter jets per aircraft carrier, and we've got at least 2 of them out there. So we're pretty well stocked as far as this conflict goes. From CBS News, President Trump called for regime change as he addressed the U.S. combat operations in Iran, which the Pentagon is calling Operation Epic Fury. To the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. President Trump said in an 8-minute video on Truth Social, when we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. So that's essentially the agenda that we have, that the U.S. government under the leadership of President Trump, that's what they want. They want the Ayatollah to be completely destroyed, the Iranian regime to be destroyed, and for the people to just simply take over. So hopefully that'll end up happening.
This morning, we've already heard from President Trump that the U.S. has begun major combat operations in Iran. The president said the strikes were aimed at destroying Iranian missiles and taking out Iran's Navy. We go now to CBS News White House correspondent Willie James Inman, who's in Florida traveling with the president. Good morning.
Yeah, President Trump, all this happened while President Trump was in Mar-a-Lago. I'm really surprised he didn't go to the White House to have
video
this
message
happen.
on Truth Social announcing the U.S. military operation in Iran. And he also mentioned that American lives could...
You know, but come to think of it, what's the name of that command center that's in the White House? It's below ground. It's actually right below where the White House ballroom is being constructed. And I don't think that there's any confirmed reports out there. But supposedly they're rebuilding it. They're remodeling the command center. I can't remember the exact name. It's got a name. Maybe it is called the White House Command Center. It isn't, but it's, you know what I'm talking about. So maybe it's just not exactly operational right now. Maybe they're working on remodeling it currently, in line with the ballroom, since it's going to be directly below the ballroom. So perhaps maybe that's why he was at Mar-a-Lago.
Be at stake here because as a result of the operation that the Pentagon is calling Operation Epic Fury.
A short time ago, the United States
the mainstream media should be loving this. If it bleeds, it leads.
Combat operations in Iran.
Loving Trump
Our
right now.
objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. And I do not make this statement lightly. The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere.
Oh, my God.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Take over your government.
This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Wow. Wow. So we are opening the door.
To possible regime
to them
change
to pass
there
through
in the
it.
final part of that video message he posted, talking directly to the Iranian people. Now, we know, of course, that the U.S. and Iran have
dude,
been
it's quite clear that the
involved
Iranian
in
people are ready for this.
indirect
And it was
talks and
it
negotiations
was
about
perfectly
Iran's
illustrated
nuclear
during all of the
program
protests
just
that happened
this
last month.
past week.
I mean, there were
Steve
millions of
Witkoff,
people
the
protesting.
special envoy for President Trump, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, were in Geneva, Switzerland. You see the picture there. Talking about ways to curb Iran's nuclear program. Now, the
like freaking $1,000 plate
were
dinner.
handling and mediating these conversations. The Omani foreign minister had essentially talked about an optimistic way that the U.S. and Iran could somehow come to an agreement in an interview with our own Margaret Brennan just yesterday. It's unclear what happens to those talks now amid this strike that we have seen play out in the past couple of hours. And we are, of course, waiting to hear from President Trump. He could, of course, make a public statement. But in the past couple of days, he has expressed
I'll
frustration.
imagine that he'll probably be updating us.
That he's not happy
Maybe daily,
with
maybe,
the progress
maybe not.
of those negotiations and conversations thus far. And we are seeing some congressional reaction following these strikes by the U.S. and Israel. A close ally to the president, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, posting this. He said, "The end of the largest state sponsor of terrorism is upon us. God bless President
we'll get
Trump,
to that
our
post here in a
military,
little bit.
and our allies in
course,
Israel."
Lindsey
We're
Graham's,
getting some Democratic response as
getting
well
his
from
rocks off
Arizona
over this.
Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego, who's an Iraq War veteran. I'll point out, he says young working class kids should not pay the ultimate price for regime change and a war that hasn't been explained or justified to the American people. We can support the democracy movement and the Iranian people without sending troops to die. Now, we are learning that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is also the National Security Advisor, has notified at least some of the so-called Gang of Eight, those top members of Congress who are notified oftentimes in these national security situations. We are also learning via our reporting from our own Nancy Cordes, via a person familiar, that some of these members were surprised by the scale and scope of this operation, saying we didn't have a hint that the strike...
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of has to be the case these days, because it seems like Washington, D.C. leaks like a sieve today because of how hyper-partisan everything is. It's almost impossible to communicate something to Democratic lawmakers without somebody just like running and just telling the whole world, quote unquote, anonymously. So, I mean, could you really blame them?
This would be so expansive, or the goals would be so broad, alluding to the possibility of regime change and the scope and scale of this operation that we have seen thus far. Now, we have reached out to the White House for comment. We have not heard back at this moment. And as I mentioned, the president could make another statement, another public statement at any moment today. But at least for now, there are no public events on his schedule, Adriana.
All right, so that's what we got from CBS News. And moving on to Christopher, I think we're going to get into some of the footage. I stand with President Trump. I support Operation Epic Fury. I pray for regime change and peace in the Middle East. Let's have a look at this footage.
سمت بیت و ریاست جمهوریه ته چیزه
Okay, so that's one of the explosions, of course. Operation Epic Fury has begun. Here's the next one.
Massive conflict is erupting across...
Oh, shit, sorry. Clicked on the wrong button. Here we go.
زدن.
Oh, nope, never mind. Already saw that one. Where did it go? Hang on. Damn it, I clicked off it by mistake. That's okay. Breaking U.S. and Israel launch Operation Epic Fury against Iran. Iran retaliates with missile barrages, sirens across Israel and Gulf states.
World War III is officially here. We're bombing Iran. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a large-scale military strike against Iran, and they called it Operation Epic Fury. Donald Trump just confirmed the U.S. was engaged in major combat operations in Iran. And guess who's fighting these wars? Us, the Goyim.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
And breaking news, Israel has been hit. Iran waited over 9 hours to strike back last year. The fact that Iran is immediately responding now means the gloves are off. And just a reminder, Israel has not replenished its Iron Dome missiles from the 12-day war last year. So this time it's going to suffer much more than it did last time.
Minimum autobusy Misri Malfu.
And on top of that, Israel indicates that the attempt to assassinate Ayatollah Khamenei and the Iranian president has failed. Mainstream news is not reporting that Israel has been
that's
hit,
what they
so
say.
Footage is being restricted.
I don't think that's been
News
fully
sources
confirmed.
are being shut down. So share this with the rest of the world.
However, it may have been maybe confirmed. I don't think that the U.S. has confirmed that yet, whether if he has been killed or not killed. Would it surprise anybody if he wasn't killed? I don't think I'd be surprised at all. From Tara Bull, Iranian high school student celebrating and saying, "I love Trump" as bombs fell on Tehran, Iran. Well, they're happy. At least the Iranian youth, they are thrilled about it, at least it would seem. Breaking, Iran launches the first wave of ballistic missile retaliation. More info coming. So it's kind of hard to gauge if this is actually legit or not. Of course, we understand since the advent of AI that a lot of things can be faked on the internet. There's a lot of footage that appears to be real, but it's been created by AI, so a lot of accounts can just try to click farm footage that doesn't indeed exist. So I would take this video with a grain of salt, but nevertheless, here we go. Man, dude, that is just crazy. If it's real, I mean, it looks real. It definitely looks legit. It's just a whole different world that we're living in now. Just seeing just missiles, just firing at other missiles. It's 21st century warfare. Reza Zainab, breaking scenes of destruction in central Tel Aviv. I don't think this one has any sound with it. Yeah, no, there's no sound. Not sure why there's no sound. But obviously, it's a chaotic scene. Looks like damage to this building. Possibly, yeah, it looks like extensive damage to that one. Okay, and let's go to the next one from Ahmed Eldin. Explosions in Abu Dhabi. Qatar Airways stops all flights into Doha after U.S. and Israel strike Iran, and Iran retaliates against GCC bases. In Dubai, an evacuation of people from the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, has begun. So there we go. That is apparently that's in Abu Dhabi with a strike that occurred from Iran. From the Telegraph, Iran has hit a U.S. military base in Bahrain as Tehran retaliates against massive and ongoing American airstrikes. This apparently was confirmed that in Bahrain, a U.S. military base was indeed hit. And here's the footage.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Fucking yikes, man. That was an explosion. Debris clearly flying all over the place. So that happened. Not 100% sure that was the U.S. Navy base that was hit, but there is confirmation. So this is from Sky News. Footage shows the moment a missile explodes near a U.S. Navy base in Bahrain. It says near a U.S. Navy base. Bahraini state news says an attack has targeted the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters. Explosions have also been reported across the Gulf as Iran retaliates against the U.S. and Israel's attack. Same footage, obviously.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay.
Wow. That was a big one. I mean, really, it just kind of comes down to economic warfare at this point. Whichever one has the most money to replenish their forces, the ones to rebuild, the ones who are the most mobile, who are capable of just obliterating the other country. I wouldn't exactly hedge my bets for Iran on that one. So MAGA's The Fix, FAFO in full swing. Poking the bear has consequences. Iran just lit up the U.S. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain with hypersonic missiles after we and Israel hammered their nuclear sites and bases in Operation Epic Fury. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Who's next? So this is apparently that same base where we saw that debris explosion occur. Huge smoke plume. Yeah, reaching all the way across the sky. Looks eerily reminiscent of 9/11, at least to me. Clear blue skies, that kind of thing. Okay, and on to the next. Just in, the United States and Israel's illegal war against Iran has already resulted in the bombing of a girls' elementary school, massacring at least 40 students. Operation Epic Fury equals Operation Murder Children to enrich the Epstein class. Okay, so there's a little bit of context to what happened here. And again, this is unconfirmed. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what either the administration or the U.S. military or the officials in general have to say about it. But apparently, a failed missile launched by the Islamic Republic of Iran caused a projectile to fall on a school in Iran. Images captured the moment it malfunctioned and struck the ground. This is just like the downing of Ukrainian Flight 752, where 176 innocent people lost their lives. They denied it at first and then later admitted it and called it human error. So this is one of the missiles in Iran that launched and looked like it malfunctioned and came back down, and it appears to have hit that school, the school that they're accusing the U.S. and Israel of bombing. And I have this directly from Google. The school bombing in Iran was the result of a malfunctioned missile launched from Iran. The origin of the strike of the Sharia Shajareh Tayyaba Girls Elementary School in Minab, southern Iran, is currently a matter of conflicting reports and significant international debate. Iranian claim, state-run media and officials assert the school was directly hit by Israeli or American aircraft during their joint military operation on February 28th. Israeli counterclaim. Israeli sources have countered by stating their military does not target schools and suggested the explosion was likely caused by a malfunction of an Iranian weapon or a failed interceptor missile falling back into a residential area. Casualty reports the death toll is reported to be between 57 and 85 people, with many of the victims being young students. Horrible. Verification. Major international news outlets like Reuters and The Guardian have noted that they cannot yet independently verify the exact cause or the source of the missile that struck the school. The incident occurred during a massive joint operation. Of course, we already know that. And I've got a follow-up for that. Is it possible the Iranian regime deliberately bombed the school to cause outrage in the Western public? While there's no verified evidence that the Iranian regime deliberately bombed the school, the incident has become a focal point for intense information warfare and speculation. Independent verification of the strike's origin remains impossible due to a near-total internet blackout in Iran. So I don't really think that they did that deliberately. I definitely believe that it was most likely a malfunction from one of the missiles in Iran because look, the fog of war, it's hard to know what exactly is going on. According to either the U.S. or Iran, or Israel or both, roughly half, like I've already said, of Iranian missiles that have launched have either malfunctioned or failed to launch or something went wrong. So is it possible that the Iranian regime deliberately... Okay, I already did that one. Hold on, let me see what I have. Is it true that American and Israeli weaponry is highly precise and striking a civilian school is unlikely? So it says, while American and Israeli militaries utilize some of the world's most advanced precision-guided munitions, the history of conflict shows that civilian infrastructure, including schools, can still be struck due to intelligence errors, technical malfunctions, or the presence of military targets nearby. And so I decided to ask Google straight up, yes or no, is it true that American and Israeli weaponry is highly precise and striking a civilian school is unlikely? One word answer. And Google says yes. And it just follows up with asking if I'd like to see a comparison of precision-guided munitions currently being used in Operation Epic Fury versus the Iranian air defense systems. Anyway, so let me go back up here to the top. So Iran hit our military base in Bahrain. Iran has launched retaliatory missile strikes targeting the Naval Support Activity NSA Bahrain, which houses the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters. Footage and reports indicate explosions and damage occurred near the base following U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran. And has any other American targets been hit? Yes. Iran has reportedly targeted several U.S. military installations and assets across the Middle East in addition to the base in Bahrain. According to reports from February 28th, 2026, the following targets have been involved. In Qatar, and look, I'm going to butcher these names, Al Udeid Air Base, which serves as a major regional hub for U.S. forces, was targeted by Iranian missiles. Some projectiles directed at Qatari radars reportedly evaded interception. In the United Arab Emirates, Al Dhafara Air Base in Abu Dhabi was targeted. While many missiles were intercepted, falling shrapnel reportedly killed one person in a residential area. And also in Kuwait, Ali Al-Salam Air Base and Ahmed Al-Jaber Air Base were both cited as targets. Explosions and sirens were reported near facilities housing U.S. Army Central. In Iraq, reports indicate missiles were intercepted near Erbil, though the U.S. had previously completed withdrawals from major bases like Al-Assad and Al-Tanf earlier in 2026. And also diplomatic posts. The U.S. Embassy in Bahrain announced it would close on Sunday, March 1st, due to the ongoing strikes. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're waiting for. They should have already cleared out by now. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, which is the Iranian forces, has stated that it considers all U.S. bases and interests in the region to be legitimate targets for this retaliatory operation. And is that all I got? Oh, okay. So here's another one. This is also that was circulating around social media. Did an Iranian ship sink? Apparently there was a ship that was sunk by either the U.S. or Israel or supporting forces. But as of today, there are no confirmed reports that a major Iranian military ship has been sunk in the current exchange of strikes. However, there are several unverified reports and recent maritime incidents involving Iranian vessels. Unconfirmed reports of strikes. Some unverified reports have mentioned potential strikes on Iran naval assets, specifically the IRGC Navy frigate Jamiran, but these remain unconfirmed by official sources. And remember, President Trump said that we're going straight after their Navy. And I would not be the least bit surprised if this turns out to be confirmed. The January 2026 sinking. Earlier this year on January 14th, an Iranian-flagged cargo ship named the Rona sank in the Caspian Sea while reportedly transporting weapons to Russia. Iranian claims against U.S. ships. Conversely, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has claimed that its missiles severely struck a U.S. combat support ship on February 28th through U.S. Central Command, although U.S. Central Command has stated that damage to U.S. facilities and assets have been minimal. The Strait of Hormuz blockade. In response to the strikes, the IRGC has reportedly closed the Strait of Hormuz. That's bad. It's kind of a big deal. Warning that no ships are allowed to pass, which has led to significant disruptions in global shipping. I mean, I don't know if it's already led to significant disruptions, but it certainly will if it remains closed for a period of time, which I would almost bet my bottom dollar that it's probably going to be closed for a prolonged period of time. What that's going to look like for the rest of the world, I don't know. Will our gas prices go up? Again, not really for sure, especially with so much oil leaving Venezuela now and heading into the U.S. Maybe that would offset any increases in costs of gasoline, at least in the U.S. I honestly don't know. It's way too early to tell for all that, or with regard to all that. So, all right, let's read from U.S. Central Command. This is from 4 hours ago. They published this article. And we're going to get into this. Also the video, but let me read this. Well, you know what? Let's just play this first since it's up here at the top. Maybe we already saw this. We might have already seen this. This might have been the same clip that they dropped earlier. Satellite guided. Extremely precise. Man, they're just firing them off one after the next. There goes another 20 million. There's another 30 million. I mean, those things ain't cheap. I mean, look at the smoke trail, man. I mean, they're legit just firing them off one after the next. Wow, man, rock and roll. Well, they're launching a full barrage against them. All right, this is out of Tampa, Florida. U.S. Central Command commenced Operation Epic Fury February 28th at the direction of the President of the United States. U.S. and partner forces began striking targets at 1:15 a.m. Eastern to dismantle the Iranian regime's security apparatus, prioritizing locations that posed an imminent threat. Targets included Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps command and control facilities, Iranian air defense capabilities, missile and drone launch sites, and military airfields. The president ordered bold action, and our brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen are answering the call, said Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of CENTCOM. Following the initial wave of U.S. and partner strikes, CENTCOM forces successfully defended against hundreds of Iranian missile and drone attacks. There have been no reports of U.S. casualties or combat-related injuries. Damage to U.S. installations was minimal and has not impacted operations. The first hours of the operation included precision munitions launched from air, land, and sea. Additionally, CENTCOM's Task Force Scorpion Strike employed low-cost one-way attack drones for the first time in combat. Operation Epic Fury involves the largest regional concentration of American military firepower in a generation. And that is all that they released, at least so far. I'm sure they'll be following up on that. So if you want to keep up with what's going on in the conflict for yourself, CENTCOM is definitely a profile that you'll want to keep an eye on, as well as the Department of War. Also, Pete Hegseth, who is he's the Secretary of War, and of course other administrations. And you could also just follow the Army, the National Guard, or not National Guard, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, the Space Force. You can follow all of those accounts. I mean, maybe the National Guard, they might be updating on things that are happening as well. I mean, they might be included, maybe not right now, but maybe in the near future. Okay, from the New York Post. Multiple high-ranking Islamic commanders, regime officials have been killed in Operation Epic Fury. This was posted about 9 hours ago as of my current time while I'm recording this. And let's get into this. Multiple high-ranking Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders and regime officials, including IRGC Commander General Mohammad Pakpour and Iranian Defense Minister Amir Nazarzadeh, may have been killed in Operation Epic Fury, according to reports. Okay, so they haven't confirmed that one. Pakpour was named head of the IRGC after Israel's June attacks on Iran killed his predecessor, Hossein Salami, and oversaw the deaths of thousands of protesters during weeks-long unrest in December. Multiple sources said the joint Saturday strikes were believed to have eliminated Pakpour and Nazarzadeh, according to Reuters. And it looks like that is Aziz Nazarzadeh, who was reportedly killed, apparently. And is this the other guy? Pakpour, that's the Pakpour guy. Apparently he was most likely killed as well. And this is U.S. and Israel launching missile strikes on Iran, killing top officials in Operation Epic Fury. I'm going to back out a little bit just so we can scale in these images a little better. And then there's another one. A plume of smoke rises following an explosion in Tehran. U.S. and Israel launched at least 7 missiles on Iran. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei fortified compound, killing numerous senior officials, Iranian sources told the outlet. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told NBC News, also admitted that at least 2 Iranian commanders were killed in the attack, but did not confirm any names. And Sham Khehani, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader, may also have been killed, according to Iranian media. Another 40 people were killed when Israeli missiles landed on a school. Okay, well, the New York Post is reporting it. Well, actually, technically, Reuters is reporting that it was Israeli missiles that landed on a school. Although, look, I'm not gonna take off the table the possibility, maybe even probability, that it was an Iranian missile that just simply malfunctioned and fell. Citing Iranian state media, under his role as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps top commander, Pakpour oversaw the deaths of 3,117 civilians across the nation, including bystanders and witnesses during nationwide anti-regime protests. Soldiers allegedly opened fire into the crowds indiscriminately and put the country under a media blackout to hide the bloodshed. Locations hit in Iran and where they retaliated. Explosions were reported across several cities in Iran, including Tehran, and span as far north as Tabriz and south in Shibarhar. Iran retaliated by hitting multiple bases and locations in the region. So the red is strikes on Iran, and then the green is Iran retaliation. So that's what we've got so far. I'm not sure how interactive it might be. I don't know if I could click on it, if it'll bring up anything. Let me just try Bahrain. Nah, it doesn't look like it brings up any details. It's just showing just locations in general. So yeah, there was a number of strikes that were already hit in Iran, and retaliation's already occurring. So we'll just have to see how things play out in the coming hours and probably days. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, age 86, was not at his Tehran compound during the attacks. Almost as if somebody, maybe they tipped him off. I don't know. So I'm assuming that's like his, I don't know if they called it his palace or what, but whatever it is, his primary residence apparently was completely obliterated. So I'm sure he's not too thrilled about that. I was there that night. The security forces opened fire on people. They killed my child, one mother told Reuters about December 28th. UN human rights experts warned Tehran's crackdown on anti-regime protesters has resulted in as many as 20,000 Iranian demonstrators, including children, being killed. Iranian officials have claimed at the time that the mounting deaths during the protests were the fault of rioters and terrorists, and foreign influence, of course. Last month, Pakpour threatened that Iran's finger is on the trigger as U.S. military resources were allocated to the Middle East, and warned the U.S. and Israel to avoid any miscalculation. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and President Masoud Pezeshkian were also targeted in Saturday's attack, though the fate of both officials remains unknown. Conflicting reports about whether Khamenei, 86, survived the bombing swirled. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told NBC News that Khamenei is alive as far as I know. Pezeshkian's sons claim his father survived the attack, stating the assassination attempts failed and other officials are also healthy. President Trump said in an address early Sunday morning that the strikes were targeting Iranian leadership and that Operation Epic Fury's objective was to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. And airstrikes were also reported in other enclaves, including Isfahan and Qom and Karaj and Kermanshah. But the full extent of the attack is not clear. Look, man, English is my one and only language. I am terrible at pronouncing foreign words, obviously, can you tell? And from Global Eye News, breaking: Iran officially declares the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
This is Sepah Navy, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. From now on, all navigating through the Strait of Hormuz is forbidden. No ship in every type is not allowed to pass from the Strait of Hormuz till next notice. This is Sepah Navy, out.
It is forbidden. You do not pass through the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, dude, that they could have found a more threatening voice to use. I mean, the guy didn't. Yeah, okay. Anyway, whatever. From Tausi TV, breaking: Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has outlined the plans for the first 6 months after the fall of the Islamic Republic in Iran. So this is the Crown Prince of Iran, I guess. Not too familiar with Iranian politics. Maybe he's a long-standing royal family. Maybe that's what I'm guessing. Maybe similar to perhaps like the British monarchy or something like that. Anyway, here, let's see what he says. This is going to be translated below.
نسخه بروز شده کتابچه دوران اضطرار پروژه شکوفایی ایران منتشر می شود. پروژه شکوفایی ایران بخش پنجم از استراتژی پنجگانه ما برای بازپس گرفتن ایران و دوباره ساختن آن است. پروژه شکوفایی چشم‌انداز و برنامه گذار به دموکراسی و بازسازی کشور را ارائه می‌کند. کتابچه دوران اضطرار بر 6 ماه اول نیازهای فوری کشور، بحران‌های پیش رو در این دوره و راه حل‌ها و فرصت‌ها تمرکز دارد و با مشارکت مستقیم ده‌ها متخصص تهیه شده است. پیشنویس این کتابچه در تابستان 1404 ارائه شد.
Oh wow, so that's been out for a while.
در راستای شفافیت و پاسخگویی حداکثری از متخصصان و عموم مردم خواسته شد نظرات خود را با دستاندرکاران در میان بگذارند. تیم پروژه شکوفایی صدها ساعت با متخصصان به گفتگو نشست. هزاران پیشنهاد رسیده را بررسی کرد و اینک نسخه بروز شده را ارائه کرده است.
Okay, they got an updated
من از
version now.
مدیریت، تیم اجرایی، نویسندگان و مشاوران پروژه شکوفایی ایران برای برداشتن این گام بلند سپاسگزارم. همچنین از همه کسانی که به شکلی دلسوزانه و سازنده پیشنهادهای خود را برای بهبود کیفیت این کتابچه ارائه کردند تشکر می‌کنم. برای نخستین بار در این چند دهه پروژه ملی و در این ابعاد با مشارکت همگانی و در یک روند شفاف انجام شده و به سرانجام رسیده است. ما این روند را در دیگر فازهای پروژه شکوفایی و در دیگر پروژه‌ها ادامه خواهیم داد و استفاده خواهیم کرد. کتابچه اضطرار رؤوس کلی ساختار و برنامه‌های مورد حمایت من برای اداره کشور در فردای سقوط جمهوری اسلامی در 6 ماه نخست دوران گذار است. من و تیم همراهم به این برنامه‌ها متعهدیم و آماده ایم که پس از رساندن انقلاب شیر و خورشید به سرمنزل پیروزی و سرنگون کردن جمهوری اسلامی زمام امور را در دست بگیریم. در پی آن فرایند انتقال قدرت، استقرار سامانه گذار، ایجاد امنیت، بازسازی کشور و گذار به دموکراسی را هدایت کرده و به سرانجام خواهیم رساند. چون همیشه حمایت و اعتماد شما ملت بزرگ ایران بزرگترین سرمایه من بوده و خواهد بود. پاینده ایران.
Long live Iran. So that is the update from the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi. And this is also from his official account because that came from Tausi TV. My dear compatriots, decisive moments lie before us. The assistance that the President of the United States has promised to the brave people of Iran is now arrived. This is a humanitarian intervention, and its target is the Islamic Republic, its apparatus of repression, and its machinery of killing, not the country and great nation of Iran. However, despite the arrival of this assistance, the final victory will still be achieved by us. It is we, the people of Iran, who will finish this task in this final battle. The time to return to the streets is approaching. Now that the Islamic Republic is collapsing, my message to the country's military, law enforcement, and security forces is clear. You have sworn an oath to protect Iran and the Iranian nation, not the Islamic Republic and its leaders. Your duty is to defend the people, not to defend a regime that has taken our homeland hostage through repression and crime. Join the nation and help ensure a stable and secure transition. Otherwise, you will sink with Khamenei's ship and his crumbling regime. And my message to the President of the United States, President Trump, is this: the honorable people of Iran, despite the brutal repression and killings carried out by this regime, stood bravely for nearly 2 months. I now ask you to exercise the utmost possible caution to preserve the lives of citizens and my compatriots. The people of Iran are your natural allies and the allies of the free world, and they will not forget your assistance during the most difficult period of Iran's contemporary history. And to you, my dear compatriots in Iran, in these sensitive hours and days, more than ever, we must remain focused on on our ultimate goal, reclaiming Iran. I ask you for now to remain in your homes and remain calm and safe. Stay alert and ready to return to the streets for the final action at the appropriate time, which I will communicate to you. Follow my messages through social media and satellite media. If disruptions occur in the internet and satellite broadcasts, I will remain in contact with you via radio. We are very close to final victory. I hope to be with you as soon as possible so that together we may reclaim Iran and rebuild it. Long live Iran. Reza Pahlavi. And of course, we already saw the video. I just figured I would read his statement also. And of course, the same one that was also posted. And we'll move on to the next. So, man, it sounds like that, like, true change is coming. And I guess it's going to be up to the people, assuming that the United States and Israel and any of our supporting allies actually are successful at just completely just obliterating Iran's military, which we're in the process of doing right now. From Fox and Friends, this is from Senator John Fetterman. I might be a Democrat, but in this specific case, the president is absolutely correct to take this kind of action. And Senator John Fetterman says he supports Operation Epic Fury.
You know, I'd like to remind my colleague over in the House that Iran massacred 30,000 of their own people right now. This war is not about the Iranian people. It's about this poisonous regime. And that's why I'm proud to stand with our military. I'm proud to stand with Israel, too. I might be a Democrat, but in this specific case, the president is absolutely correct to do these kinds of actions. And now we have...
I mean, Fetterman knows the Democratic Party is just gone. It's unrecognizable, man.
It's entirely the path for peace.
It's a communist regime at this point.
How many treaties, how much negotiation? I never thought they would work. Iran has only ever responded to these kinds of things. And now here we are right now, and they have the opportunity, real peace, and to change their way, committed to trying to destroy Israel and destabilizing the entire region. These where things are necessary.
Look, and I think he's right about it. And of course, the Democrats are calling on Congress to intervene to cut off Trump, and he should not ever be allowed to do this or do this any further with Iran. However, this might not be the war that we might have remembered back, like during our Operation Iraqi Freedom, for instance, that dragged on for years and tens of thousands of soldiers. It may not look like that. This may just be just absolute thorough obliteration, carpet bombing, missiles from all over the place, just bombarding Iran. And it may just be that simple. It might just be something that may last for several days, or maybe not even several days. Maybe it'll be over with by the end of the weekend. I don't know. I really have no idea. Or, God forbid, maybe it would end up dragging on for years. Hopefully not. From U.S. Senator John Fetterman, Operation Epic Fury. President Trump has been willing to do what's right and necessary to produce real peace in the region. God bless the United States, our great military, and Israel. Got a lot of likes for that. Over 200,000, 6.5 million people have seen that post. And another one from John Fetterman, committed Democrat here. I am a hard no. My vote is Operation Epic Fury. And he tagged in and headline from Axios, Democrats demand war powers vote after U.S. strikes Iran. Of course, all of the Democrats, except for John Fetterman, of course, would probably be in lockstep with that. And we've got this from Secretary Marco Rubio. Today, I designated Iran as a state sponsor of wrongful detention. For decades, the Iranian regime has cruelly detained innocent Americans and citizens of other nations to use as political leverage. Iran must end this abhorrent practice and immediately free all unjustly detained Americans. And that was from last night. Yeah, from yesterday. Secretary Kristi Noem from 5 hours ago. I am in direct coordination with our federal intelligence and law enforcement partners as we continue to closely monitor and thwart any potential threats to the homeland. And I mean, as far as Homeland Security goes, this couldn't be at a worse time, because Democrats, they have cut off funding to the Department of Homeland Security. So if, God forbid, something were to happen here stateside, it's going to be hung right around the necks of the Democrats, because they cut off the Department of Homeland Security. They have no funding right now. They have no funding. So FBI Director Kash Patel, FBI personnel are fully engaged on the situation overseas. Last night, I instructed our counterterrorism and intelligence teams to be on high alert and mobilize all assisting security assets needed. Our JTTFs throughout the country are working 24/7, as always, to address and disrupt any potential threats to the homeland. While the military handles force protection overseas, the FBI remains at the forefront of deterring attacks here at home. It will continue to have our team work around the clock to protect Americans. We ask everyone to please report anything that may seem suspicious to law enforcement. 1-800-CALL-FBI and tips.fbi.gov. Thank you to all military service members, federal partners, and law enforcement who continue to put mission first. And what else do we have from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt? President Trump monitored the situation overnight at Mar-a-Lago alongside members of his national security team. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu by phone. Prior to the attacks, Secretary Rubio called all members of the Gang of Eight to provide congressional notification, and he was able to reach and brief 7 of the 8 members. The president and his national security team will continue to closely monitor the situation throughout the day. We got this from Speaker Mike Johnson. Today, Iran is facing the severe consequences of its evil actions. President Trump and the administration have made every effort to pursue peaceful and diplomatic solutions in response to the Iranian regime's sustained nuclear ambitions and development, and terrorism and the murder of Americans and even their own people. For decades, Iran has defiantly maintained its nuclear program while arming and funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and other internationally recognized terrorist organizations. Iran and its proxies have menaced America and American lives, undermined our core national interests, systematically destabilized the Middle East, and threatened the security of the entire West. The Gang of Eight was briefed in detail earlier this week that military action may become necessary to protect American troops and American citizens in Iran. I received updates from Secretary Rubio thereafter, and I will remain in close contact with the President and the Department of War as this operation proceeds. We pray for the safety of our brave service members and our allies involved in Operation Epic Fury. May God bless them, and may God bless America. And of course, he tagged in President Trump's statement, which we already went over at the beginning. And we have this from Leader John Thune, who is the leader in the Senate. For years, Iran's relentless nuclear ambitions, its expanded ballistic missile inventory, and its unwavering support for terror groups in the region have posed a clear and unacceptable threat to U.S. service members, citizens in the region, and many for our allies. Despite the dogged efforts of the president and his administration, the Iranian regime has refused the diplomatic off-ramps that would peacefully resolve these national security concerns. I commend President Trump for taking action to thwart these threats. I thank Secretary Rubio for providing updates on these issues throughout the week, and I look forward to administration officials briefing all senators about these military operations. I commend the bravery of the service members carrying out these operations and pray for the safety of those in harm's way. And what else do we got? We've got Steve Scalise. For years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America, targeted our troops, weaponized their terrorist proxies, and killed tens of thousands of innocent people, including Americans. Today, President Trump made it clear their reign of terror is over. The president has worked tirelessly to establish a lasting peace through diplomacy with Iran. Instead, Iran continued to pursue their sinister ambitions, promoting terrorism, developing missiles, attempting to rebuild their nuclear program, and posing an imminent threat to the security of the United States and our allies. We can never allow the world's #1 state of sponsor of terrorism to have a nuclear weapon. This decisive action is yet another move by President Trump to protect the United States and sends a message to the world. Never doubt America's resolve or capacity to defend its interests. May God bless America, the brave men and women of the U.S. military, and the freedom-loving people of Iran. Next one from Rand Paul. As yet another preemptive war is begun in the Middle East, John Quincy Adams' words of wisdom still ring true. Quote, wherever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will be her heart, her benedictions, and her prayers be. Like most Americans, I have sympathy for the plight of the Iranian people and all subjected people around the globe from North Korea to Tibet. But as Adams wrote, America goes not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. She is the well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all. She is the champion and vindicator only of her own. The Constitution conferred the power to declare or initiate war to Congress for a reason, to make war less likely. Madison wrote that the executive branch is the branch most prone to war. Therefore, the Constitution, with studied care, delegated the war power to the legislature. As with all war, my first and purest instinct is wish all American soldiers safety and success in their mission. But my oath of office is to the Constitution. So with studied care, I must oppose another presidential war. Of course he does. Senator Rand Paul. And oh man, we got this from Senator Lindsey Graham. How do you think he's going to take this news? Of course we know. To say I'm disappointed in the joint statement by leaders from France, Germany, and the UK regarding Operation Epic Fury is an understatement. It is so sad to see Western democracies lose their passion for justice and a sense of right and wrong the further away from their shores the event occurs. Everyone in Europe is rightly impassioned about Russia invading Ukraine, but when it comes to the long-suffering people of Iran, Europe has been pathetic. To the leaders of France, Germany, and the UK, the Iranian people are not wrong to demand the end to their oppression from the bloodthirsty Ayatollah's regime that has American and European blood on their hands. You collectively are the ones that are wrong by refusing to come to the Iranian people's aid and adding insult to injury. You're suggesting we should continue to negotiate with religious Nazis. It is pathetic how far Western Europe has fallen. To the Iranian people, President Trump heard your cries. Help has arrived in large measure. To our European allies, you have gone pathetically soft and lost your zeal for confronting evil, apparently, unless it's on your front porch. So sad. And he linked The Hill, which I'm not going to get into the details with The Hill, but I will post this. This will be down below in the description if you'd like to have a look at it. I did read from the New York Post already, so I don't think probably we're going to get a whole lot more additional information that we don't already know out of this article. But regardless, I'll have it linked below if you want to have a look at that. Now, maybe just a wild guess, France, Germany, and the UK, maybe they're not wanting to get as heavily involved as whether if they should or shouldn't. I don't know. You know, I'm no war expert or conflict expert or anything. I just can't help but think maybe it's just because they imported millions of refugees into their country, many of whom probably certainly came from the Middle East. A lot of them may be radicalized. A lot of them might be Ayatollah sympathizers or maybe sympathetic to the Iranian Islamist Republic, the regime or what have you. So maybe they want to kind of take a back seat to the situation because they don't want any acts of terrorism to pop off in their country, which, look, it's probably going to happen whether they like it or not. Hopefully it won't. I mean, nobody's going to hope and pray that happens. So... But I do have a statement from Keir Starmer, who is the Prime Minister of the UK, and he gives a statement. It sounds like that the UK is involved and they are supporting the U.S. forces. U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. As a result of the current security situation, the U.S. Embassy has directed all U.S. government employees and their family members to shelter in place until further notice. The government of Israel has closed the airspace to all civilian flights. All commercial flights from Ben Gurion Airport have been canceled. And you can read the full message here at il.usembassy.gov and can read all of that for yourself. Of course, again, linked below. And from Megatron, just in, UK Prime Minister Starmer announces that the United Kingdom has entered the war against Iran, which isn't exactly true. Our forces are active and British planes are in the sky today as part of a coordinated regional defensive operations to protect our people, our interests, and our allies. There is a community note here saying that the Prime Minister did not state the UK entered the war with Iran. He stated the UK have British aircraft in the sky as a defense measure. So, I guess you can take that whichever way you want. But this is the exact same statement, just showing that this is from Keir Starmer's account. So this is indeed from Keir Starmer. So let's hear him out.
Earlier this morning, the United States and Israel struck targets in Iran. Iran has since launched indiscriminate strikes across the region. I know the British people and communities across our country will be deeply concerned about what this means for security and stability and for the fate of innocent people across the region, which for so many of us includes friends and family members. So whilst the situation is evolving very quickly, I want to set out our response. The United Kingdom played no role in these strikes, but we have long
Don't look at us!
The regime in Iran,
Islamic extremists
utterly
that we allowed into the UK.
They
Don't blame us.
Thousands of their
We
own
didn't do it.
Brutally crushed dissent and sought to destabilize the region. Even in the United Kingdom, the Iranian regime poses a direct threat to dissidents and to the Jewish community.
Well, yeah, man, that's what happens when you
Over the
import
last
so many
year
of them into
alone,
your country.
They have
Idiots.
backed more than 20 potentially lethal attacks on UK soil. So it is clear they must never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. That remains the primary aim of the United Kingdom and our allies, including the US. I condemn Iran's attacks today on partners across the region, many of which are not parties to this conflict. We extend our support and solidarity to them as part of our commitments to the security of our allies in the Middle East. We have a range of defensive capabilities in the region, which we've recently strengthened. Our forces are active, and British planes are in the sky today as part of coordinated regional defensive operations to protect our people, our interests, and our allies, as Britain has done before, in line with international law. We've stepped up protections for British bases and personnel to their highest level. We are also reaching out to UK nationals in the region and doing everything we can to support them. I've been speaking with leaders today from the E3 and across the region. It is vital that we prevent further escalation and return to a diplomatic process. We want to see peace and security and the protection of civilian life. Iran can end this now. They should refrain from further strikes, give up their weapons programs, and cease the appalling violence and repression against the Iranian people, who deserve the right to determine their own future in line with our long-standing position. This is the route to de-escalation and back to the negotiating table. Thank you.
All right. Well, he's calling on Iran to lay down their weapons and stop firing missiles. And he's not making any calls on the United States to do anything. So clearly he's aligned with the allies, which is a good thing. Obviously, that's a good thing. And we'll see what comes of that. From the German embassy in London, E3 joint leader statement on Iran by President Emmanuel Macron, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So here's this statement. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom have consistently urged the Iranian regime to end Iran's nuclear program, curb its ballistic missile program, refrain from its destabilizing activity in the region and our homelands, and to cease the appalling violence and repression against its own people. We did not participate in these strikes, but are in close contact with our international partners, including the United States, Israel, and partners in the region. We reiterate our commitment to regional stability and to the protection of civilian life. We condemn Iranian attacks on countries in the region in the strongest terms. Iran must refrain from indiscriminate military strikes. We call for a resumption of negotiations and urge the Iranian leadership to seek a negotiated solution. Ultimately, the Iranian people must be allowed to determine their future. So it does sound like in a roundabout way, we do have the support of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. And obviously the United Kingdom, they've got, as Keir Starmer said that they've got planes in the sky that are supporting the U.S. and Israel in our ongoing attacks. So let's head on to the next. Eric Daugherty breaking. Saudi Arabia just joined the USA in the military operation against Iran. This comes in the wake of Iran attacking the U.S. base in Saudi Arabia. Iran messed up. The Iranians made a big mistake by firing on Arab coalition partners. While the regime is cooked.
What I can say is new right now. We're just getting word that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia says they will join the U.S. in the operation against the Islamic Republic of Iran. They said that this comes in the wake of Iran attacking the U.S. base in Saudi Arabia. I just spoke to a senior U.S. official who said the Iranians made a big mistake by firing on Arab coalition partners. Now they are likely to respond. So by Iran firing missiles at UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, they are now likely to fire back at Iranian targets. So those coalition partners are now going to enter this operation that started off as a U.S.-Israeli operation. That is very, very significant, and we haven't seen that happen in the past. The U.S. military has been focusing on high-value targets, I'm told, the IRGC, significant facilities.
Okay, so yeah, looks like that they are now involved. Another one, it's official. The greatest Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, called and notified the Gang of Eight ahead of time before President Trump strikes on Iran, including a call to Hakeem Jeffries, Team Obama. The Trump administration notified Congress and did the right thing. Narrative busted. So the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, when she said that 7 of the 8 Gang of 8 were properly notified, I could take a wild guess as to which one was the holdout, the one who refused to pick up the phone, the one who just wanted to plug his ears to scream la la la, Timu Obama. That would be my wild guess. All right, so breaking, Iranians flood into the streets of Western cities, waving flags and cheering the United States while celebrating the dawn of a free Iran. The Iranian people are done waiting. They want their country back. And we've got a video showing this. Now, I will say, for the record, they did do a lot of protesting in December and into January. This footage may possibly have been a compilation from when that happened a couple of months ago or a month ago. This may possibly have not been from today. But look, we get the idea. They want this regime to be overthrown. I mean, one thing I could say pretty much for sure is that this wasn't like years and years ago. This was most likely just over the last couple of months, if not today. And from Eric Daugherty, it's official. President Trump, the U.S. military, and Israel have killed IRGC commander Mohammed Pakpour in strikes. He's responsible for killing thousands of Iranians. Swift justice. And, of course, the thousands that he is alluding to were those who were killed during the protests that happened during December and January. And then we've even got this from Volodymyr Zelensky. Events in the Middle East and the Gulf region are unfolding extremely rapidly. Unfortunately, Ukraine knows all too well what this is about. Although Ukrainians never threatened Iran, the Iranian regime chose to become Putin's accomplice and supplied him with Shahed drones, and not only the drones themselves, but also the technologies to produce them. Iran also provided other weapons to Russia. Over the course of this full-scale war, Russia has used more than 57,000 Shahed-type attack drones against the Ukrainian people, cities, and energy infrastructure. Other nations have also suffered from Iranian-backed terror. Therefore, it is fair to give the Iranian people a chance to rid themselves of a terrorist regime and to guarantee security for all nations that have suffered from terror or originating in Iran. Our position is well known, and Ukraine has stated it repeatedly, including recently. It is important to preserve as many lives as possible. It is important to prevent the war from expanding. It is important that the United States is acting decisively. Whenever there is American resolve, global criminals weaken. This understanding must also come to the Russians. People cannot know the day or the hour, yet every act of evil, terror, and aggression against neighbors ultimately meets a just response. We expect that in the end, the Middle East region will become safer and more stable. Much has already changed toward that goal. Ukraine is ready to help every nation so that security and justice increase and terrorist regimes decrease. So that was the statement from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. And from the Tehran Times, Sardar Jabari says, Trump should know that today we fired the old stockpile missiles. Soon we will unveil weapons you have never seen before. Okay, so there's no English translation. Okay, whatever. Like, I can't understand what the hell he's saying because he's not speaking English and there's no English subtitles, so what's the point? Anyway, I mean, look, if you speak Farsi, I guess if you want, I'll repost that. There's a direct link to my profile down below in the description. If you just happen to have not seen that yet, you can check it out there. From Dr. Malouf, exiled Iranian women in the Netherlands cry tears of joy after the U.S. bombed Iran and the Islamic regime may be in its final days. F all the leftists who want to deny them the right to live freely in their homeland again. Yeah, damn straight. And look, I mean, like, if they had a free country to go home to, do you think they would? Do you think they would return home from the Netherlands or from Europe in general or wherever it is that they are in the world? Probably. I know a lot of Venezuelans, once Maduro was captured, there's a lot of Venezuelans here in the United States that they would love nothing more than to return home. They just want a prosperous home to return home to. From Goldie Gamari says, Iranian here with a message for every single American who voted for President Trump. Thank you. God bless President Trump. God bless the U.S. military. And God bless America.
Iranian here with a message for every single American who voted for President Trump. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. God bless President Trump. God bless the U.S. military. And God bless America. We can't wait until Iran is free and we can welcome you back to our country with open arms and be the allies that we used to be before the Islamic regime took over our country in 1979. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
Amen. God bless America. Congratulations to everybody who voted for President Trump. The Iranian people are very happy with your vote. All right, here we go with Mayor Zoran Kawami Mamdani. Great, let's see what he has to say. Today's military strikes on Iran carried out by the United States and Israel mark a catastrophic escalation in an illegal war of aggression, bombing cities, killing civilians, opening a new theater of war. Americans do not want this. They do not want another war in pursuit of regime change. They want relief from the affordability crisis. They want peace. So in other words, he just wants a lot of distraction. I am focused on making sure that every New Yorker is safe. I've been in contact with our police commissioner and emergency management officials. We're taking proactive steps, including increasing coordination across agencies and enhancing patrols on sensitive locations out of an abundance of caution. Additionally, I want to speak directly to Iranian New Yorkers. You are part of the fabric of this city. You are our neighbors, small business owners, students, artists, workers, and community leaders. You will be safe here. Look, man, I think he's definitely miscalculating the people of Iran that are living in New York City. I have a feeling that they're extremely excited about what's happening in Iran right now. I don't think that they're devastated. I don't think that they're shaking their heads and just, bawling at the thought that the Ayatollah, that the Islamic regime in Iran may be falling at the hands of the U.S. military and the Israeli, the IDF. Highly doubt it. I think that they're probably quite pleased about that. But, of course, like this dude, he's like, I don't know if I can go as far as to call him an Islamist extremist, but I mean, he is Muslim, right? All right, so Persian Kohler, if you're not Iranian, shut the fuck up. Iranians are celebrating and crying tears of joy right now. Long live Iran. 165,000 likes, man. A lot of people were very happy to see that. And Niyak Gorabani says, as the Islamic Republic's forces come under heavy fire from U.S. and Israeli militaries, Iranians in the United Kingdom are celebrating outside the Iranian embassy in London, despite significant restrictions imposed by the Metropolitan Police. I mean, you even see some Israeli flags out there. Everybody's celebrating together. Okay, let's head to the next. What else do we have? Savak Zadeh, breaking Iran, Saturday, February 28th, 2026. Jamaran has sunk in the Persian Gulf. It's an Iranian-built guided missile frigate and the lead ship of Iran's Moj-class warships. Moj? Is that Moj? Class warships. It belongs to the Islamic Republic. And again, that's unconfirmed. We don't know yet for sure, at least as of this recording. Maybe it has been confirmed since I started this. I've been going on for about an hour and a half now. But last I saw, it wasn't officially confirmed that it has sunk, even though President Trump, like I already said before, that he is specifically targeting the Iranian Navy. So it would seem reasonable to believe that there's going to be a whole bunch of Iranian ships that are going to get sunk. All right, so Chaya's clan, in one of the most hilarious and pathetic attempts to intimidate the United States, the Islamic Republic released this AI video. What are Islamists so obsessed with using such shit AI for propaganda? All right, let's do that one more time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, it was obviously fake as hell. I mean, they don't have that kind of, they don't have those kind of planes anyway. They don't have like B-2s, and they don't have like what is the new bomber, like the B, is it B-23 or B-21 Raider? I know it's called the Raider. I can't remember what B it is. B-20 something. All right, so AG, it was just a few months ago that the Islamic Republic was murdering people in the street. They've done this throughout the region, including targeting Americans. It's a real tell that many of the same people who pretended to care about innocents in Gaza are eager to defend this regime. All right, well, I'm assuming that was during the time of protesting a couple of months ago or last month. Voice of sanity. Trump is the GOAT. He isn't just ending the starving Iranian regime during the fasting month of Ramadan. He's doing it just as the U.S. takes over the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council for March. The best part, he put his pissed off wife in charge of taking the gavel on March 2nd. So it's almost as if all of this was just falling into place just perfectly. You know, deciding to strike Iran during Ramadan and also putting the First Lady in charge of the UN Security Council for next month. It's almost just too perfect, isn't it? First Lady Melania Trump makes history, becoming the first sitting First Lady to preside over the UN Security Council. On March 2nd, Melania Trump will do something no sitting First Lady, American or otherwise, has ever done: preside over the United Nations Security Council. The moment is as symbolic as it is unprecedented. As the United States assumes the Council's rotating presidency, the First Lady will take the gavel and steer discussions centered on education, technology, peace, and security. So we'll see where that ends up going. Quite interesting. Congressman Randy Fine, never forget UN employees actively engaged in Muslim terror in Israel as part of the 10/7 attacks. Of course, October 7th, 2023 attacks. We should deport the UN from America. This is from the House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. The United Nations stood idly by as Iran used its proxies across the Middle East to kill innocent people time after time. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has no moral authority on this matter. No nuclear weapons in Iran. And they're responding to none other than Antonio Guterres. And he says, I condemn today's military escalation in the Middle East, the use of force by the United States and Israel against Iran, and the subsequent retaliation by Iran across the region undermine international peace and security. All member states must respect their obligations under international law, including the Charter of the UN. The Charter clearly prohibits the threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. I call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and de-escalation. Failing to do so risks a wider regional conflict with grave consequences for civilians and regional stability. I strongly encourage all parties to return immediately to the negotiating table. I reiterate that there is no viable alternative to the peaceful settlement of international disputes in full accordance with international law, including the UN Charter. The Charter provides the foundation for the maintenance of international peace and security. So there you have it from the head of the UN, was it the UN Security Council? Or no, Secretary General of the UN. Yeah, of course. I think that we may have sort of passed that point. And as the president has stated and others have stated, that Trump has given Iran many opportunities to come to the table, and they just don't want to play ball. And I guess it just has to come to this. From Rudy Giuliani, Operation Epic Fury. President Trump said that the United States has begun major combat operations in Iran. The Pentagon officially named joint strikes with Israel against Iran Operation Epic Fury, a massive multi-day combat operation targeting missile industry, Navy, nuclear threats, IRGC sites, and Tehran facilities. Israel calls it Operation Roaring Lion. Fox News' list of targets include Iranian Parliament, National Supreme Council, Ministry of Intelligence, the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency, and cyber attacks on the Islamic Republic news agency. Reuters, Iran appears to have launched attacks into Manama, the capital of Bahrain. Missiles also targeting the U.S. military Al Udeid air base in Qatar. And then he dropped some images, which we've probably already seen all these images by now. Yeah, we saw that. And I think we saw that footage as well. And from Todd Starnes, there are reports that Iranian women are removing their hijabs to celebrate Operation Epic Fury. They are free from their Islamist oppressors. Meanwhile, American leftist women are cloaking themselves in the hijab. What does that tell you, America? That leftists are useful idiots. They helped to install the Islamic regime in 1979. Then when the mullahs took power, they killed all the leftists and jailed them. The left is governed by emotions and never logic. Yeah, he's 100% right on that. They are absolutely emotional, and emotions never really get you that far in life. Not really. No, they don't. And look, as I've said before on The Swamp, that look, if the leftists, if the far leftists, if they get exactly what they want and some like communist regime ends up taking over the United States, they're going to be the ones that are going to be taken out first, because they're the ones that are going to be the highest threat to the new establishment. All right, so Just Jin RX, the Iranian people are playing music and dancing in the street after President Trump invades Iran. And this just in, Saudi Arabia joins forces with the USA against Iran. Operation Epic Fury is in full swing. The people of Iran cannot wait to get their freedom back. All right. So again, was that today? Was it not? Possibly, perhaps. Maybe they were able to upload that before they did another internet blackout, as we read a little bit ago. Apparently, the Iranian regime, they cut off the internet to the entire country again. And from Dennis Michael Lynch, Operation Epic Fury, Trump is the best president of all time, finally ridding of the scum in Iran who chant death to America, FAFO. Apparently, this was posted by President Trump. It doesn't have the date, right? I don't think they have a date now. They may have cut off the date, so I'm not sure if that was posted today or not. But of course, stealth fighter dropping tons of bombs, or stealth bomber dropping bombs. And moving to Mr. Poole, breaking, the world is on fire. Operation Epic Fury, hour by hour. While you were sleeping, the world changed forever. Saturday, February 28th, 2026 at 2 o'clock p.m. or 2 o'clock HEST, Eastern Standard Time, 2 a.m. U.S. and Israeli forces launched a massive preemptive strike on Iran. Explosions rocked Tehran, Isfahan, Tabriz, and Kermanshah, Loristan, and Karaj. Government ministries and military facilities obliterated. The target, a direct strike, was carried out near the office of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iranian state TV confirmed the blast. This is not a warning. This is decapitation. Iran's desperate response. Iran's Revolutionary Guards launched between 30 and 75 ballistic missiles at Israel. Sirens across the entire country. Hospitals moved patients underground. Tel Aviv hit. 31 Israelis reported dead, but Israel's Iron Dome held the line. The damage to Iran. Over 1,000 Iranians killed, according to early reports. Internet access across Iran dropped to 54%. Mobile networks down, airspace closed. The regime is going dark because they don't want the world to see what's happening. The Middle East is burning. Bahrain, U.S. Navy 5th Fleet headquarters hit by Iranian missiles. Smoke rising from Jufair. Abu Dhabi, UAE, explosions confirmed. Smoke over the city. Kuwait, explosions heard. Sirens activated. Qatar intercepted 2 Iranian missiles midair. All residents ordered indoors. Qatar and Kuwait, UAE, all airspace closed. Russia's warning. Dmitry Medvedev, the peacemaker, has once again shown his true colors. All negotiations with Iran were a cover operation. Trump's message to the Iranian people: the hour of your freedom is at hand. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Trump's message to the IRGC: lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or face certain death. This is not just a military operation. This is the final chess move. The last pillar of the deep state's global network is crumbling. First, it was the cartels. Then it was the human trafficking rings. Now it's the regime that funded them all. Iran funded Hamas. Iran funded Hezbollah. Iran funded the attacks on America's soldiers. Iran was 90 days away from a nuclear weapon. Not anymore. The lion does not negotiate with snakes. He devours them. Share this. The full picture will never be on your TV. There you go. I thought that was pretty well said. And let's roll on to General Mike Flynn. This is the last post that I have for the video. Breaking war in Iran. First, and I believe most important, is for all Americans to steady themselves for a lot of misinformation. This will come from all angles of attack. In war and intelligence reporting, we say first reports are always wrong. That's a good starting point for us all. War is never in any nation's interest unless national survival is at stake. In America, the decision to go to war should be a joint decision by the executive and legislative branches of government. There will be untold costs and consequences, and our nation must be together on this issue. Like it or not, our nation going to war is not the sole prerogative of the executive branch. We should demand that Congress has skin in this game, just as our president and our military forces have skin in it. For a minute, consider the lost resources spent fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, trillions of dollars and thousands of lives. Never mind Ukraine and Venezuela. We still have a naval armada minding this critical part of the world. We also need to consider what responses might come from China, i.e. Taiwan, Russia through the use of nukes, or Turkey, a NATO ally. Hopefully they sit this one out. And is our homeland at risk to terror counter strikes? That said, a prolonged war is never in America's interest. However, once war is waged, it is an unleashing of emotions that can easily cause it to be endless. We've been told time and time again, America can no longer afford endless wars. That is a seriously true statement, and we really cannot afford another endless war or conflict. Therefore, we want to see if our Congress will respond with full-throated support for our military operations and our troops. We also want them to vote their beliefs whether or not they support these actions. We also want there to be as much transparency as possible from our White House on those clear objectives that describe vital national security interests, precisely how long this war will last, and what objectives, once achieved, will allow us to rapidly extract ourselves from this war. We have far too many problems here at home, and we cannot afford open-ended ventures back in the Middle East on behalf of others. We have to get back to taking care of America first, as fast as possible. Pray for our troops, and like millions of Americans, we want to be at peace. We also want freedom-loving people around the world to know we stand with your fight to achieve freedom, and once achieved, we will open the doors of America to fully embrace your desire to live freely and in peace. But also understand achieving freedom takes sacrifice and costs, and comes at a cost. Americans understand that our own American Revolution is a perfect example of sacrifice. For those that don't understand scale and scope, Iran is 4 times the size of California with over 90 million people. A few strikes in a few days does not solve all of its problems. The people of America need to understand this while the people of Iran are living it. In war, the best plans provide the most options right up to the last possible minute. I know our military is exceptional and well led, but going to war is also a failure of diplomacy and policy. Remember, Iran also had many chances to come to the table. Let's pray President Trump sits his team down and has solutions for the long haul. I believe he does, but the bureaucratic challenges he faces are immense. God bless America, and may God keep us safe and secure in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Pray for all those in harm's way, especially our great military. And that is all I have for now. So I fully expect a lot more information to keep streaming in from all over. Strikes will probably continue, counterstrikes from Iran, depending on the amount of information that comes out in the coming hours. I'll do a follow-up video this weekend. Otherwise, I'll just give any updates on my show, The Swamp, on Monday. So if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please give the video and subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like, and I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore on Monday as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, the administration. Also, I post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for the next video that I do. And don't forget, video clips from tonight, from this episode, will be dropping on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for watching. God bless the troops, and God bless America.